Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Octodad, delirious catch. Look at him flail about, he's having a blast. The tentacles on his face look like a moustache. He's Octodad, deadliest catch.
I assume that would have synced up fine.
That is the Octodad song.
And it's glorious.
We can't show them the dance on here, but it's good. It's going to replace the Macarena. We've already been speaking to...
Imagine a more majestic Macarena, and that is the Octodad dance.
Yeah. Crucially, step 7 in wrecking the joint. And by joint, we mean whatever establishment you might be in when you're doing the dance, you've got to make sure you're near something that you can just kind of wreck, like sweeping everything off of a desk.
Yes, it's really satisfying.
It's really super satisfying. It's Octodad, the dadliest catch.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, Gamescom!
Woo!
Gamescom! Woo! Welcome to our post-Gamescom, Post-Mortem, podcast thing.
Cast.
Hi, I'm Matt. This is Carl.
Yo.
And yes, you might have seen us in postcards from Gamescom 2013, where we were actually at Gamescom doing stuff. Now, at Gamescom, when we arrived, we took a question with us to Gamescom, and the question was predominantly Sony had pretty much we'd got Sony in the bag. We wanted to know, after months of flip-flopping and U-turning and just not being very good at PR, or knowing what the Xbox One actually was, could Microsoft wipe the slate clean and come away from Gamescom with sort of renewed optimism in their product? Could we come away from Gamescom with some sort of optimism in their product?
Yeah.
Do you come away from Gamescom with some sort of renewed optimism in their product?
I would say so. I think the best way of saying it is they went to wipe the slate clean, and they did a good job of it, but there's still a bit of smudge on it. But we can at least understand what's written on there now. That's how I would summarize Microsoft's Gamescom 2013.
Yeah.
And smudgy slate.
Smudgy slate. Like there is a slate. We've seen it.
A legible smudgy slate.
Legible smudgy slate. Slate.
Slate.
Yeah, and the thing is,
I'm far more. Yeah.
There were plenty of things we had questions about, and a lot of them got answered at Gamescom. I think a lot of them didn't. A lot of them are still to come. That goes the same for the PS4 as well. But for starters, they actually showed us some games. We got to play some games. Like Killer Instinct and Rise, and see Project Spark working.
Oh, good God, yes.
And Peggle.
Oh, Peggle. Oh, I love Peggle.
Peggle. And I got to see how the Kinect works. Like, I got to learn all about the UI and the multitasking thing that's going to happen. And I'm really John said it really well in an article the other day. I am sorely tempted by an Xbox One. Partly because of the controller.
Yeah.
Which is super comfy. But also partly because I like what Microsoft are doing now. I can see what Microsoft are doing now.
Yeah.
And some things were truly impressive, like Project Spark, for example.
That was fantastic. That was definitely one of my more underrated highlights, I feel. In the fact that they showed us, how you create this world, and you can use smart glass to kind of like create it on there and then see it transformed onto the screen, and how easy it was to create this 3D game space as well. That was really impressive, and how quickly you could do it.
Yeah, and then there was the stuff that really sort of been in my mind was when they showed us some of the community creations. Like there was that Limbo-esque one.
Yes.
They then turned multicolor. And then turned 3D.
Yeah.
Then added enemies too, and you could see how you could just in sort of a few short steps, because it was all done before our eyes very quickly, how you could turn Limbo into Crash Team Racing.
Yes. And that's great.
That's amazing.
Absolutely wonderful. I mean, I spoke to one of the devs after they showed us the demonstration, and I said, in theory, could you create your own RPG? Could you create your own Fable? Let's just say, like adding in progression and leveling and everything else. He was like, yep, you can do it. You can even create quest hubs and quest chains and everything else, and that is awesome.
That's really awesome. Because we've seen this to a certain extent with Little Big Planet. Media Molecule created just the most extensive tool set.
Yeah.
For that game, for that series, and as it progressed, you could create little cinematic little movies. Yeah, you could create sort of interactive racing movies in like karting, and then actually turn it into a arcade shooter.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. And it looks like Project Spark is going to do for the Xbox One what Little Big Planet did for the PS3, and that's really, really exciting. But more personalized as well, because you can scan yourself into the game.
Oh, God, yeah, the animations. That was obviously, it was very early. They said that they'd only included it like that week, I think they said.
Yeah.
But it worked, and you could see like the fact that the monsters could move their mouths, and so you could do mimed cutscenes. I think that's brilliant. Absolutely, it was just wonderful to watch. It
was really good. One game that we just laughed at it. Like, I remember us laughed at Rise, Son of Rome, and thought, "What are you doing, Crytek? What have you done?
Yep.
It's just quick time events. You tards, what a lie." And then, but we got hands on with it.
Yep. Well, we got with the multiplayer, we should point out, but
it was all right.
It wasn't bad. I would be more inclined to play through it. Like, I'm not necessarily sure whether I would buy it, but I would be more inclined to sit there and play through it now, having seen how the multiplayer works, and those brutal executions were just.
They are actually really cool.
They are. Yeah, they are pretty awesome. Especially when we were like doing this tag team move on this guy. Like Matt had got this guy stabbed from behind, and then suddenly I came from the front and just started like stabbing him, just going, "You can't move," and it was gloriously horrifying. But it all worked. More to the point, obviously there were a few markers for quick time stuff, but they did it in such a very subtle way that it worked really, really well, especially like as we pointed out in our Microsoft wrap-up postcard, the fact that you got this sort of like glow around the enemy or around the weapon to indicate which button you had to press for the quick time event in terms of an execution. Yeah. And that worked really, really well. The action when you would like obviously having to use your shield and doing different things like a strong shield bash or just holding your shield up worked again really, really well. Kind of in a way that works for Dark Souls in a way in that terms, but less punishing. But it played really well, and the multiplayer arena things like going from different bits, so like going from different objectives, that worked quite well as well. I came out with renewed optimism for it, but again, I don't know whether necessarily I would go out and buy it.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it was, because I'm quite a hack and slash fan.
Yeah.
And I liked its weightiness. I liked the way it felt. I liked the sort of mechanisms. I liked the action.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested to see what the single player is like, because that was a very basic kind of waves based multiplayer, but it was enjoyable and pretty cool, and I wouldn't be adverse to having that bundled in with an Xbox One if I bought it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I need to see more of it.
Yes, absolutely, because obviously that was just the multiplayer. They didn't show any of the single player, but if they can transfer that and build upon it in the single player, they could be onto something, I feel.
Yeah. Like there are other things that impressed as well, like Killer Instinct. We spoke a little bit about yesterday.
Yes,
seemed incredibly, very, very, very robust. It was just like playing any normal sort of fighting game.
Yeah.
The only difference being that now you can sort of choose what you pay for.
Absolutely.
guess. And I said this yesterday. It'd be interesting to see how that affects the single player mode.
Yes.
Because you'd like to think there'd still be unlockables and still be things that you can experience and still, But
But it
yeah,
played really well. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not a fighting game fan, but we sat there for a good 20 minutes just having, we're having these matches. We came to a very respectful 2-all draw.
we did.
We fought very hard for, but it was really fun. And I was kind of a little sad to put it down, just go, oh, we've got other stuff to play. But I enjoyed it. It's one of those games that if I came round to, let's say I visited Matt and he was like, hey, we should have a few rounds of Clear Instinct. I'd be like, yeah, that'd be totally cool.
Totes fine. And we were a little bit worried because Double Helix don't necessarily have the best presentation. But it was very robust, very responsive, and I now need to buy an arcade stick, potentially.
Oh, yeah, yes. Works really well with the arcade stick.
Yeah. Connect surprised me as well.
Oh, yes, because you had the sort of like the interface presentation, didn't you?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we have to remember that Connect suffered because it was behind the times in terms of tech. The minute the original released, it was behind the times. It released mid to late generation, so no one was ever really going to get hugely behind it. But this one is very interesting, and most impressively about it, its field of view is massively expanded. You can sit right up close to it, and that's very exciting for sort of just offhand movements. Like one of the things he showed us was just like in the middle of a first-person shooter, touching your head to bring up a sort of infrared display or a night vision. Yeah. As if sort of tapping a device on a visor. And that was one of the sort of tech demos he showed us. The field of view is insane. It does pick up finger movement, and he showed us the biometric stuff, which was I couldn't tell. That's not really the most accurate thing, I don't think. But no, it's really good in the UI. I really like that UI.
Yeah.
I have to say, even the Metro dashboard, as clunky as it is, I prefer to the cross media bar.
Yeah.
And this has been completely refined. It's no longer that. There is no guide button. The Xbox button will just take you back to home. It's just now a home button. You're able to run multitasking is big. It's in. You can have little widget tabs pop up in game and just instantly just leap from one thing to another. And it looked really cool. Of course, you can do that on PS4 as well, but they work in different kinds of ways. And I think actually, if you're primarily an Xbox gamer, you're going to really like the Xbox One UI and the way it all handles. It's really nice. It's really nice. And they show us why we want Kinect. The voice commands were seamless. They're picking the controller being the key for sort of recognizing which profile is signed in or which is the lead profile. That was really cool. So like, if I go out, I hand you the controller. Well, now your profile will be up. It'll just turn over. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, you came back from that presentation with nothing but praise, and it made me. I mean, my opinion of the Xbox One has skyrocketed through Gamescom. It looks fantastic. And it's at the point now where I do not know which console I will get at launch, or if I will even bother. I'm really conflicted now.
No, especially as well when you've got people like this week. Cappy Games came out and just said, "Look, we're working with both of them, but Microsoft's been really great." Yeah, and it's good to see indies coming out and saying that, because there's been an enormous amount of bad press. And we don't want that to be the status quo. We don't want Microsoft to be perennially shit at dealing with small creatives and small creative teams. And hopefully we'll see more of that. Hopefully more indies will be encouraged, because this has happened, I suppose, to say, look, no, actually it's going really well. Microsoft need them to. But that's been nice. The sort of focus on self-publishing, the the announcement of that at Gamescom was key.
Yeah.
And it's a good step for them. They need to be making more of it.
Absolutely.
But
They
I think
really,
as well,
really
like one of the biggest things was that the FIFA 14 thing, which a number of people like Jim Ryan has said it looks like they're trying to bump their pre-order numbers up because they must be failing. And I think it was Peter Moore that said something relatively, was it Peter Moore that said something relatively similar? Sort of just helping bump up those numbers, or helping consolidate sort of like two brands in Europe specifically.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's a comment. It's a comment that you've actually said in the past, like that Microsoft would be very happy to be the Call of Duty and FIFA console, and they've struck it. They've got that. They've got that. For the way I see it, they've got the big heavy hitters, and they are there at launch, ready to see gamers for a year's worth of content at least until the next iteration comes around, and they've managed to nail that really, really well. Which is why I think they have come out of Gamescom in a stronger position than they were going in.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you think about how much FIFA 14 is going to cost,
yeah,
and you think about the price difference between the Xbox One and the PS3, that's a pretty good bundle now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I mean, just going on to Sony for just a second, is they don't necessarily have the strongest launch lineup in terms of big hitters, but whereas we're still waiting to see, well, because we know that the Xbox is definitely going to have a Halo, we know that's coming.
Yeah.
And there's stuff like Quantum Break, which we still haven't seen a lot of. We're still yet to see it. It's probably going to be next year or possibly to the beginning of the following year before we actually see anything from it. But we know that in the interim, while Sony may not have the biggest hitters, they've got a lot of consistency.
Yes.
And at the same time, by the time it comes round where Microsoft are going to be starting to show other stuff, Sony will almost certainly have other hitters ready to come out, because we know that Naughty Dog are doing something. We know Sony Santa Monica are doing something. So they're going to keep up the consistency, and this is why I've got such a conflicting view on which one I'm going to go for. It's very difficult. They're going for very different tactics, and I want both. Frankly, I want them all.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, as well, Microsoft made good strides at Gamescom by announcing a whole bunch of third-party exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
But that's only one side of the coin. Sony have just announced post Gamescom they've got agreements with, I think it's 21 or so publishers.
Yeah.
To bring exclusive game content to PS4, whether that's exclusives or just an extra mission. We've seen that certainly with Ubisoft. They've locked down a whole bunch of stuff that's only going to be available on PS4.
Yeah.
I mean, and it sort of depends on what games are important to you and your sort of approach to DLC, I suppose. If you're someone that buys a lot of DLC and likes to expand on your sort of core gaming experiences, like if you want all the missions for Assassin's Creed 4, for example, you'll have to go PS4. But if you want all the stuff for FIFA 14, you might go Xbox One.
Yeah.
And yeah, just because EA are doing stuff with Microsoft doesn't preclude them from doing stuff with Sony. In fact, Sony have announced that they are, of course, doing stuff with EA. So yeah, there's going to be it's going to be really fine margin stuff, right? Because this is going to be the closest console launch in terms of competition between these two we've ever had. Releasing in the same month, releasing around the same price point if you take the cameras out of the equation. Releasing with similar launch lineups in terms of third-party titles, and it's gonna be so close.
Really is.
And I have absolutely no idea. I thought I was sure, but Microsoft. I think I agree with you. This is the thing that I sort of came out of Gamescom thinking Microsoft have done enough to make this a real decision.
Yeah.
Also, Dead Rising 3, which do not believe. Like I looked at that trailer and I just went, "Why have they made this boring?
Boring and brown."
It's really not. It's really fun.
Yep.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
And it's important that they showed us that as well, and they have. And now I want that as well. It's choices everywhere.
But yeah,
this weekend.
But yeah, now we have a choice to make. Like, we wanted them to make it a choice, and I think they succeeded there.
Absolutely.
Let's move away from Microsoft and Sony and their sort of consoles to the games themselves.
Yeah.
What were your standout games of the show?
That's a difficult one. I mean,
now you've had some time to reflect on it.
Because obviously I've seen a lot of gameplay, but I mean, admittingly, there wasn't that many games I got hands-on with at Gamescom. I was running from appointment to appointment, seeing presentation after presentation, or doing interviews and things like that. But things that impressed me. Well, I think you're going to agree with me on this one. Titanfall looks absolutely fantastic. It
plays amazingly as well. Read my preview. Watch the interview. It's so
prepare for Titanfall. It's just
prepare for Titanfall. Woomph. Yes.
It looks amazing, and it's that just whole experience is going to be great. And admittingly, I don't need to get an Xbox One for that. I can get it on PC and just have the time of my life.
Yeah, we were playing on PCs. They didn't have Xbox One versions here. We were playing on PC.
Yeah, but that looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. Another one which I did get hands-on with right towards the end of the show. I was impressed by Wolfenstein, The New Order.
A lot of people have been saying that.
It plays really well. Like it's just controls-wise, it's solid, but action-wise, it's really cool. It's got a good sense of difficulty about it. You can dual-wield MP40s, and that looks amazing. And it's got this fantastic art style. I mean, you'll be able to see it all in my written preview that will be going up very soon. But it just has a fantastic aesthetic about it, and I cannot wait to play the rest of it. I mean, I was disappointed that there wasn't any multiplayer when it was announced, but now I can see why. They are focused on this single-player experience that is really cool. So do keep an eye out for that. And like I say, I was really impressed by that. But otherwise, games-wise, that impressed me. Well, if you've seen anything on the site, Star Citizen. Oh dear God, Star Citizen. That is looking really, really cool, and we've now seen the hangar stuff in action, and that it's bare bones, but oh my God, how awesome. But otherwise, gosh, it's difficult because, like I say, I didn't really get that hands-on with a lot of stuff, but the stuff I did see just looked really good. I mean, I'm going to try and give myself a few more moments to think of it. Some other stuff. Matt, what did you see that you thought was awesome?
Well, Titanfall is amazing. Titanfall, I think, for me, game of show was a toss-up between Titanfall and The Witcher 3, and I think because I actually got to play Titanfall, it's going to have to be Titanfall. I have no doubt, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that CD Projekt will make a fantastic game, and that I will love it and shower it in affection and wonderment. But I couldn't play it, so unfortunately, I think I have to give it to Titanfall.
Yeah.
Which isn't unfortunate at all, because that game is just so great. Yeah. Interestingly, okay, I got to play Battlefield 3 as well. Sorry, Battlefield 4 as well.
Yes.
And there were two versions. On the show floor, they had a 64-player on PC Paracel Storm. Where you've got sort of like where you can sort of see the levolution.
Yeah.
No.
That word.
No, that word.
Oh.
And it really fun. Like, it was Battlefield. It really looks amazing. Destruction modeling. I just want more of it. I always want more of it. I just want more destruction modeling, even more. But it was really fun. It was totally amazing. And yeah, that's gonna be great. On PS4, which was in the behind closed doors area. Oh man, that was ropey.
Yeah, I remember you coming back saying it would be interesting to see how that would stack up against Battlefield 3 on the PS3.
Yeah,
and that is a pretty damning comparison to make. Like if you really felt like there would be not much in it. That's very interesting.
Like the textures were all over the place. It was murky and horrible, and it didn't really help that we were playing a close quarters style, sort of limited player game type there. But like it was not great. Just really not great. It was worse as well because we just played Titanfall, so going and playing that in a close quarters environment was bullshit. And it was only after I got back down onto the floor and went, oh, I'd made the classic mistake. I wasn't playing it on PC. And I
made a huge mistake.
Yeah. So Battlefield 4 looks like I can only say this based on 2 sort of half-hour bits with the game, but Battlefield 4 looks like it's gonna basically be even more of that kind of you only want to play it on PC than Battlefield 3 was. Which is
fine for me because I'll be getting it on PC.
Because the thing is, like, these next gen consoles are meant to be like they've upped the thing to 64 players. That's the whole point. Like, it's next gen. We've got Levolution, bitches. Yeah. And I'm really, oh my god, they've really
Levolution. Amazing. But yeah, just had a quick think about what else I saw. Again, I won't be able to talk about it fully until next week. But I was actually really impressed with Disney Fantasia. What I saw for that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and very charming in the usual harmonics stroke Disney kind of way. So that, again, check it out next week because we'll have the article. But that is looking really, really promising. Otherwise, again, not hands-on, but I was impressed by what I saw from Rain. I mean, that is looking like yet another arty, beautiful PlayStation experience.
Japan's studio are really good at coming out with quite quirky games. Like, the ones that did Tokyo Jungle, Gravity Rush. Really interesting games that you just kind of want to play. Absolutely.
And that looks to be yet another one that's going to be one that you want to get hands-on with. Otherwise, I got to see the presentation again for EverQuest Next, and a lot of the stuff that we saw was the same as the reveal thing that they did before Gamescom, but it was interesting to see stuff like how they're confirming mounts. They've confirmed the first class that will be in EverQuest Next Landmark, and they showed us a bit more to do with how you can the power of the customizing tools that you can have in there, and that is looking very promising, and it seems to get more promising pretty much with every single passing week. But one thing that I think I can take from Gamescom as terms of experience, it was only a short 10-minute demo that I got to play with, but Octodad, Dadliest Catch.
Octodad, Dadliest Catch.
Oh yeah. I got hands-on with that, the 10-minute demo, and it plays so well. It is just fun on a bun. It works really well with the PlayStation 4 controller. Because it seems fiddly to begin with, but that they introduce the mechanics very gradually. Again, there will be a written preview for this, so do keep an eye out for it. But that looks so it is fun. It's just awesome, and I cannot wait to play the full game.
Well, it proved so awesome and memorable that we ended up having to make a dance to it.
Oh yeah, and song. It's all there, and it's going to beat the Macarena. That's what we've said.
That's what we've said. That's what it's designed to do. Well, recognized. So that's great. It was interesting one for little demos as well, because there was a tiny. It was literally 3 or 4 minutes on Eve Valkyrie.
Oh yes.
It was just a dogfighting demo. It was just 3 or 4 minutes of dogfighting in. Just like between these 2 capital ships, like you shoot out of these tunnels, these two sort of capital ships, and then you're just in space and you're dogfighting. Loads of games have done that, right? But no game has done that with the Oculus Rift HD.
Oh, the Rift!
Oh, it was so amazing. It was just, and the thing is, like I said this at the time. When I got hands on with the Rift last year at Gamescom, we were playing Doom 3 BFG.
Yeah.
And there was a disconnect between the things I was doing and my body, because, well, obviously you're walking around.
Yeah.
So and sort of being that immersed in a game, looking around and seeing everything, it was quite disorienting, and I felt slightly ill. I felt pretty damn ill. I walked back into the convention center and someone said, "Are you hungover?" I was just like, "No, I've been in a different world," and I had been, and it had been really weird because my body wasn't following what about half of my senses were thinking was happening. But in Eve Valkyrie, because you're in a cockpit.
Yeah.
Everything is fine. You're sat down. You're fully immersed. You can look around the cockpit, but you naturally use other controls to do stuff. So you're sitting, but also moving. And I imagine it would work incredibly well for racing games as well. And this is literally just the most immersive experience I've ever had with a game. Like someone's like when you sort of come out of the capital ships and you see the guy told us just everyone fire your lasers. Just there's lasers everywhere. You look upwards and you see them streaking over your head. And I've got this guy in my sights, and oh my god, best thing ever, your missile targeting is based on where you look.
Yo.
Yes. You target other ships by staring at them. It's by turning your head and staring at them. It's like
it gives a whole new meaning. Yeah.
It's like you've got a targeting computer on your face, and it's so good. So when your sort of adversary streaks back on himself and screams over your sort of left flank, you turn your head, you can still see him.
Yep.
Because you're in the cockpit. Oh my god.
Just the whole thing with like locking it with missiles, it gives a whole new meaning to the whole the concept of the death stare or glare. You know, you just glare at their ship and just go, I'm gonna get you, and missiles fire off and just glare at him.
Death stare. Boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just got glared, bitch.
I ended up there was the guy was telling me afterwards. I didn't see this because I was too busy getting the top score for the session.
Of course, represent
by some way. But there was apparently on one of the capital ships they literally put in this trench, just so, and apparently someone worked this out earlier in the day, and so you just see ships ignoring what was going on, as soon as they exited the ship, going back on themselves and basically doing a trench run.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know why.
But this brings up a really good point in the fact that, like you say, it works really well with racing games and obviously works in space games, which is why I'm looking forward so much to its implementation in Star Citizen. Because, I mean, that's already looking really, really positive. And it's just, the Rift. Oh, the Rift.
It's really interesting, though. I mean, because I'm not sure I'd play it. Well, the sort of first-person shooter games that are going to be sort of available, used with the Rift, I'm not necessarily sure. It takes some getting used to. I'm not necessarily sure I'd play them that way.
Yeah.
Because the complete immersion effect is really is disorienting when you start moving around.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of getting used to. Don't stand up. I thought, there were people that thought Mirror's Edge would make you ill. Like, just add it to this, and get a bucket, because I think that's going to be the case. But I agree with you. Like, it's very, very exciting for certain things, and even if you don't necessarily build the field of view completely around, essentially transforming stuff into the best IMAX ever is going to be fine.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just thought about it. I didn't get a chance to ask him about it at the time because this was a comment that was made after Gamescom, but. Ragnar Tornquist, the guy who's doing Dreamfall chapters, he has actually mentioned that he was very skeptical of its use in third-person view, because obviously Dreamfall chapters is going to be done in third person.
Yeah.
But apparently he's seen demos of games successfully utilizing the Rift for third-person view, and now he's really excited because they've got a Rift in the office, and they've had a mess about with it, but now he's determined to get Rift compatibility in with Dreamfall chapters, and that just shows you that obviously there's a whole genre of game that we haven't even thought about possible for the Rift that now has the potential to be, to have the experience made even better by this peripheral. And so it does. It's just it's still really exciting. You say the word Rift, and we said it like a year and a half ago. I would have got excited. I'm still excited when you say the word Rift.
Yeah, it's such a badass name as well.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think the problem for me with Doom was that it was totally immersive. It was completely, you are this person, because it was first person. That's the nature of first person. That's what first person is supposed to do. But we forget that the Rift has qualities of just providing you with the most immersive camera ever. So you are the camera. So instead of observing that from a screen, instead of being sort of behind the camera, you become the camera.
Yeah.
And that's, so you're in the world, and that's incredibly exciting. It's all so tantalizing.
Really is. Oh man.
And yet another reason why PCs are just the platform to...
Exactly. You know, I'm having this tough time trying to decide between the consoles, but at the end of the day, I've got so many experiences left to and coming for the PC. I mean, why do I need to worry?
I mean, we met with Joe Robinson, who often writes for Strategy Informer, and I think he was saying that, like, because we asked him whether or not he had much time for sort of next gen stuff, and he said, no, my schedule is completely booked out with PC things. And that's a testament to the fact that in amongst this whole console war or this sort of pre-game console smack talk that's happening, there's a console already there with all of the indie games you could ever want.
Yep.
And every other game you could ever want, pretty much, at less money.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry, I've got, just to go off topic while I still think about it, because I assume we are going to be running out of time shortly. I just want to give a couple of quick mentions to Beyond Two Souls, which, again, there will be a write-up about the preview. It's coming soon on the site. We've got so much stuff, so much content. Keep an eye out the site, because, you know, we've got loads. But Beyond Two Souls, the fact that you'll be able to have two players playing it, one person playing Aiden, one person playing Ellen Page's character. I can never remember the name of it. Jodie, that's the one. One person playing Jodie. Not that you don't play at the same time, but basically you switch the action between each character. But also the fact that you can also use an app on your smartphone device, be it so like an iPhone or an Android device, to control it as if it was a casual game. It works really well. I've seen it be used, and it's got the potential to really just like change interaction, give like this whole sort of like cinematic adventure game genre a new audience, basically. So be sure to check out that one when that goes up on the site. But the other thing is WildStar. They've now shown off their whole sort of like crowd control functionality for the game, and because in most MMOs, you know, when crowd control happens to you, what happens usually is you lose control of your character and you can't do anything, and it sucks. They've introduced new mechanics so that when you're blind, basically you still control your character, but the screen goes very dark and hazy and you can't see very well at all. When someone casts Confuse on you, your controls get reversed. So up is left and down is jump and things like that. And that's really cool.
That sounds awesome.
When you get disarmed with a weapon, usually you just can't use your weapon for 5 seconds. No, in WildStar, your weapon goes flying out into the game space and you have to run over and pick it up again. And then the other one is when you get knocked down onto the ground, you have to do a dodge roll to basically gambol and stand back up again. It's things like that that are really, that this is what the MMO space needs, and, you know, making combat more active and more mobile, basically. Yeah. And so WildStar continues to impress me. It really does. Like, just when I think I'm like getting a bit worried about, oh, you know, are they really gonna be able to pull this off? They keep showing stuff and it looks fantastic. So yeah, that did impress me as well. Even though I didn't get hands-on with it at Gamescom, like seeing all of this stuff in action, you know, it works and it looks really promising.
It's looking really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of little quick highlights as well I'd like to give shout-outs to. South Park Stick of Truth.
Yeah,
Finally
boy.
Saw that.
Yeah.
Didn't get to play it, unfortunately, but it basically just looks like an interactive episode of South Park.
Which is all I want.
Which is yeah, it's all I wanted. It had us laughing solidly for 20 minutes. that presentation. Watch Dogs is looking really cool.
Yep.
Really cool. I like they've got this really nice system whereby you can sort of hack someone, or maybe someone might try to hack you, and then you can follow them into their game if you manage to kill them before they manage to hack you, and then try and find them. It's like this game of a little hide and seek, cat and mouse. It does look as open as they're saying. We're in terms of stealth systems and combat systems, you can dick about with anything at any time.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Very, very excited for that game. Elsewhere, I think, well, Assassin's Creed 4, you will see on Monday. There will be a big fat preview and possibly my favorite interview from the show with Dowie McDevitt, the lead writer on AC4, and basically my time with Assassin's Creed 4, Ubisoft basically told me everything that I wanted to hear without me telling them, which is good. All the little worries and faults and little criticisms I had of Assassin's Creed 3, and there were many, seem to have been resolved and sorted out. Like, I like the fact that, because AC3 had maybe one actual proper, here's your target, go get him, assassination. Apparently, Assassin's Creed 4 has about 7 or 8, and then you've got infiltration missions as well, which are basically those, but without a kill target at the end, or maybe a Templar at the end or something. So there's going to be loads of opportunity for Edward to get his sneaking on, which is what I want. And Edward is a much, much, much more interesting character.
Now, Matt, we know that Connor was very well-rounded. He had a lot of depth to him, and was a very genuinely interesting man.
That's because he was a tree. He's very well-rounded and not depth to him. That's because he was a tree. He was just wood. He was just there. Yes, I will avenge you. Fuck you.
He was a Hanar.
No,
I'm telling you, he was a Mass Effect Hanar. Yeah, in a man's
Hanar
body.
In disguise.
This one will now kill you.
A painted Hanar.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, those are some other highlights from stuff. Also, Wasteland 2 is going to delight anyone that ever just enjoyed Infinity Engine RPGs.
Yeah.
The Dead Island MOBA is really fun. It's really fun. It's really stupid. It's really dumb. It's really fun. And yeah, it was just there's just so much to look forward to on the horizon.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would say that this was one of my more exciting Gamescoms. Just to see from the content that came out of it, I was really impressed and very excited going in, but equally as excited coming out. There's just been something for everyone.
Oh shit! I just forgot something. Batman, yes. Mad Max.
Oh, Mad Max, yes.
Mad Max is looking sweet, like really sweet. But by far the most impressive thing I saw at Warner Brothers was Lego Marvel Superheroes, where you will be able to play as Stan Lee.
Oh, yes.
And he has all of the superpowers, and he can even Hulk out into Hulk Stan Lee. It's just the best thing I've ever seen. It has so many freaking unlockable minifigs and big figs.
Yeah.
That game is just going to be fun on a bun, on an iced bun.
Yeah.
So yes.
Something for everyone.
Something for everyone. Pretty good Gamescom. And there's so much stuff still to come. So yeah, do keep an eye out on site. I think we're out of time.
Yep.
So yeah, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Do stay tuned for the site on Monday for an ass flag blowout.
Never refer to it as that again. No.
Okay.
No, never that.
But yeah, I think that's it from us. Thanks very much for listening. We will leave you with one more rendition of the Octodad song.
Are we ready? Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Octodad, deadliest catch. Look at him flail about, he's having a blast. The tentacles on his face look like a mustache. He's Octodad, deadliest catch.
It's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Macarena the shit out of it.
We're coming for you, Macarena.
There'll soon be a video telling you how to do
Mhm.
what and when. Around to doing it. I might have to get drunk this weekend to then do it, but yeah,
It's gonna happen.
trash the house naturally.
Oh yeah.
Bye.